yeah. Forgive the mess. I don't know how long this one's gonna be. I honestly don't know if I'm gonna break it up into a whole bunch of parts. This is my part one. My part one of the Brickomanie 2025 convention wrap up. I'm home now. I want to make it very clear this is gonna be part of the wrap up. Yeah. Which is gonna be possibly the biggest part of this convention wrap up. Not necessarily the saying on this shirt, but how I got this shirt. I was driving with, so we drove home. So let's just start there. We'll go backwards. We drove home. Oh my goodness. We're trying to figure it out. Okay, so there is COVID, and that's an exception. But going back to 1998, I've done at least 3 to 4 shows per year. Now, shows from small to huge. I've attended and or ran and or was just a part of shows 3 to 4, sometimes 5 and 6 shows per year, but we'll say average 3 to 4 shows minus COVID. So, but 1997, 1998 with the Guelph University robot competition. And then getting onto RTL with the robot competitions that we did there. We did 3 or 4 a year. So basically, I wouldn't say 30 years of shows, but 25 at least times 4. It's over 100 shows. We'll just say as an average or as a number. 100 shows. I've done 100 shows. Attended and been part of 100 shows. Now, the conventions, the Lego conventions that I've attended, pretty small in comparison. My friends have attended a lot more conventions than I have, which is fantastic. I wish I could, but it's not in the cards. But anyway, my first convention was Brickfest 2004, and Brickfest was already running for a few years before then. But Brickfest 2004, I got to meet in person a lot of my friends that I made on Lugnet. And again, you've heard me talk about the absolutely joy of Lugnet back in the day. It is absolutely fantastic. My next convention, a Lego convention, actual Lego Con, was Brick World 2010. So that's 6 years between Brick Fest and Brick World. Back when it was Brick Fest, it was the only convention in town, in the world. But then, I think by 2004 there was actually other conventions happening. But Brickfest, as far as I know, was the absolute first Lego convention, run by fans for fans, blah blah. And then Brick World started before 2010, but I went to 2010, and it was awesome, as Brick World is. For what Brick World is the biggest convention on the planet. And then 2011, my very good and dear friend Janie started her convention, Brick Fête in Canada. And of course I attended not all of those, unfortunately, because again, life gets in the way. But I attended most of those from 2011 to 2018, 2017, 2018. And they were spectacularly awesome. And then Bricks in the 6 for I think 2 or 3 now. They had one pre-COVID that I did not attend, but after post-COVID, I was at I think 3 now. Honestly, you used to have a list here. Doesn't matter. At least 2. Graham's fantastic. And then Brickomanie, so 2 years ago, 2023, and now 2025. So maybe over 10 plus conventions I've been to, and they've all been spectacular in their own way. They've all been what They were, in a way, I will never get over how good, because BrickFet, I wasn't part of the internal support crew, but I was a good friend of all the people in the internal support crew, so I, was in on the in, which I like. So I like being in on the in, but without any responsibility. That's me. And they knew that if they needed something, that they're busy doing something else and they needed something done, that I'd step up and do what I can. But I am not a person that should be absolutely relied on to be scheduled to do stuff, because life gets in the way for me, and that's just the way it's always been. And I'm sorry about that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That's not part of this topic. So Brick World is just massively huge. I fundamentally believe that every Lego fan should experience. I'm gonna plug this in before the battery dies. I fundamentally believe that every Lego fan should experience Brick World at least once, because it is huge. It is absolutely monstrous. And it's bigger since 2010. I know I keep on hearing all my friends go. But I only had to do it once, and I wouldn't mind doing it again. But it's just, I did it once, and I got the t-shirt. So, not this t-shirt. But the Canadian conventions I want to support as much as I possibly can, and get to. I went out to not an official, so maybe we could actually say, and it wasn't Nova Lug, it was just the East Coast had a Lego convention, and it was smaller than the rest, to be said, but it was also terribly awesome. It was like, there was like, I don't know, 40, 50 displays there, and it was fantastic. And that was a fantastic weekend when I went out to the East Coast. Sandy and I and Josh went out to the East Coast, and Fredericton, New Brunswick. So I shouldn't forget that one, because that was, I guess, an official convention, if you want to, for the weekend. So I've been over to 10 plus conventions in my life, and a lot of people have dozens and dozens of conventions, and I want to say that's fantastic. It is awesome that they can do that. I cannot, and I just don't have I don't know, it's not for me. So, but I do support it as I can. So anyway, I just got back from Brickomanie 2025 in Montreal, / Laval, which is a suburb of Montreal. I won't say that because they'll probably get mad. It's a city like Scarborough to Toronto. That's the exact what I heard from people who were there. Think of Laval like Scarborough to Toronto, or Etobicoke to Toronto, which is fine. Not Hamilton to Toronto, that's completely different. But Scarborough to Toronto, so that's how Laval understands itself in the grand scope of the world. So Laval, Quebec, and so to lay the basis for this, I combined this convention weekend with a work trip, because we have locations in Montreal and surrounding areas, the company I work for, and they needed some work done. So because I don't want to go on this tangent too long. So I combined, I said to the bosses that you need this work done. I've been wanting to do this work at one of your locations in a place called Boisbriand, and us English people, but they like to call themselves Boisbriand, which is like 16 minutes from the hotel that the convention's at, which is perfect. So I won't go too much about it, but we left last Sunday, not yesterday, because today's Monday. We left last Sunday, so Sandy and I and Josh packed the van and we drove out there on Sunday, so I could be at my company's location at 8 o'clock Monday morning. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I worked for my company. Fantastic. I did some work out there at the plant in Boisbriand, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday was the convention. So that's great for me. So that worked out fantastically well for me. And it's always about me. No. But that's what happened. And so when we Thursday night, when I was done work, I actually got to, because the people that were running the convention were already starting to set up Thursday afternoon. So when I came home from work and had my shower, because I was thinking, oh, it's just absolutely filthy dirty, because it was dirty work that I had to do out in the plant floor. It was just filthy. Dusty, whatever, it doesn't matter. So when I was got back at 4:30 from the, well, actually I worked from the hotel. Doesn't matter. Those are details that are relevant to this conversation. I went downstairs and they were already setting up, and they said, "Hey, Dave," and I said, "Yeah." They said, "You can bring your stuff in now." So I got to be in, because the actual official convention did not start until Friday for people, attendees. But of course, the organizers were setting the stuff up Thursday night, and they said, because of my layout, blah blah blah, "Hey, you can come down." I said, "Perfect." So Thursday after work, I started bringing my stuff into the room, the big huge, yes, ballroom, convention room, we'll call it. It was smaller than the bricks in a six room, I think. I mean, I don't know what the square footage difference is, but it was big. It was big enough, shall we say. And they gave me my spot. And I'm going to try to remember to talk about that, because that was magnifique. But I started setting up Thursday night. So I actually had the entire layout built for display. And again, I'm going to go into some details there later. Before 9 o'clock. Everything was out. The monorail, the tower, everything was built. Nothing was working, but no lights in the water. But everything was put together by 9 p.m. So that was fantastic for me, 10 o'clock. And so Friday morning, I go down there and I just had to get it working. so I got to take my time, which was very much appreciated. So, and the organizers were all of them were very, very accommodating and understanding and appreciative of the layout being as needy as it is to get set up properly. We'll say that, the easiest way of saying that. So Thursday night built, Friday was all the air checking, and the show starts at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, whatever it was. And this layout was running. So Friday goes by, Saturday goes by, Sunday goes by. We'll go into more details about that later. And then I have started, because I did Brickomanie 2 years ago, and I did not do this. What happened in Brickomanie 2 years ago is that Sunday, the show's over at 4 or 5 p.m., and then you take down your displays, and then you drive home. Well, Laval is 6 hours away from here, from this house. And taking down the layout can be sometimes time consuming. Okay, every time. And we didn't leave Laval. Actually, it wasn't Laval, it doesn't matter. Yes, it was Laval. We didn't leave until 9 o'clock. So from 5, 6, 7, 8, try to get in the road as soon as possible. It was like 9 p.m., 8 p.m., and it's a 6-hour drive. It was a tough haul. And then I had to be at work on Monday. So I got home at 2 or 3 in the morning, had a quick nap, and then I went to work on Monday morning. I said, no, I'm not doing that again. So this time I booked Monday off. And so I said, I'm going to be at the convention. The convention's going to be over at 5. I'm going to take my sweet time, taking on the layout, talking to friends, hugs, and wish you wells, and hope to see you soon, kind of stuff, which was just misty-eyed, because again, we'll get into the details of that later. I hope I remember all this stuff that I'm going to talk about. But then I drove home. I got to stay overnight. So Sandy and I and Josh, when I had the entire layout packed up, the sun was setting, and then we did some stuff in Laval. We went over to a beautiful little park and walked and watched the sunset and looked at the fish in the pond. It was nice. And so we had some family time, which I never had before in the last show, or hardly any show where there was family time, because I took the days off before and after, or whatever. I was already there. During the work week, I got back from the office, or the plant at 4:30. I had a shower, we had dinner, and then we went out and toured Montreal, which we'll get to details later. So many details later. But yeah, so we did not, we were not expecting to drive home until Monday morning, like today. And so we took our time last night and went out and saw a little bit of Laval during the sunset. It was beautiful. And then we went to bed. And then I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning. And I don't know what woke me up at 4 o'clock this morning, but I was awake at 4 o'clock this morning. And then Sandy woke up, and then Josh woke up, and I said, "Do you want to go home now?" 4 or 5 a.m. Sure. So we hopped in the car at 5 a.m. and we drove home. It's closer to 6 because it took us almost exactly 6 hours. I typed in the GPS when we left the hotel. It said we'd be home at 12:02 or 11:58, and we got home at 12:10, and it's 6 hours. So we left around 6 a.m. We did stop a few times. Sandy and I swapped because 4 o'clock we were fully awake. But then I'm driving and they're going, yeah, I'm not fully awake anymore. So pre-Kingston, Sandy drove for an hour and I had a quick nap, and then I drove the rest of the way home. It worked out fantastically well. We got home around noon, and then we unloaded the car, blah, blah, blah. Everything's in the garage. But that was a lot better than last year, where I had to drive 6 hours straight at 3 a.m. to get home and then work 4 hours later. So that part, that logistics was, anyway. So that's the overview of this past week. So we'll start the details, and I'm going to try to not jump all over the place, but you know me already, I'm going to be jumping all over the place. But let's see if I can actually do this, because it would be on here, I hope, maybe. I should have been ready for this. All these pictures of our wonderful, wonderful trip. So this is my personal phone. I think I downloaded it here. Oh no, this is before this. No, the pictures on the phone. For those of you who are on my Facebook and or heard the story, so we left Sunday to go to Laval. We left Sunday around noon, so I didn't have to drive in the dark. We got from here, left at noon, got there around 6-7 p.m. checked in. Fantastic. I was getting ready for this show here. This is why the room is such a mess. I was getting ready for this show to make sure it was, and I had to modify and fix the wiring from the last Anime North and other shows that I knew the wiring was bad. So I was fixing the wiring the week before, leading up to Sunday. So, and then in my head, logistically, I'm going through all the things I need to get done before we load the van with the layout to be working for 5 days and the show for 3 days. So I had to plan 2 weeks before to get all this stuff done. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after work, I'm down here doing stuff, blah, blah, getting things ready. So, and I'm soldering irons, I'm making better wires, I'm making whatever, fixing the lighting. And then Thursday night, a week before the show, but also just 2 days before we're left in the car to come here or go to the show, Thursday night, I wanted to set up the entire tower to make sure that the lighting was going to work, because I could fix it at home. I can't fix it at the show. So Thursday night, I'm putting the tower together, the entire tower, important to the story, the entire tower together. And I've known this tower for 15 years. It's not like we're best friends and going out or anything like that, but I've known this tower for 15 years. And I know what it can and cannot do, well, just because I put it together so many times. It's been together many, many times. And of course I've modified, doesn't matter. So in any context, I can put that tower together by myself. Now, it is easier to be said. It is so much easier if somebody helps me put that tower together, because all they have to do is hold it while I'm putting it together. Because the landing pads are stupid heavy. They are stupid heavy. You've seen pictures of the landing pads. If you ever had a chance to pick one of these up, I mean, it's not like gold, it doesn't weigh tons, but in context with the rest of it, the landing pads are heavy. There's at least 1,000 pieces in the landing pads. So I don't know if it's 1,000. I think it's gotta be close. 36 wing plates, 72 hinges, 72 slopes, inverted slopes, 100 and whatever, 40. There's a lot of pieces. But so when I'm putting on the landing pads, most times there's somebody standing there to hold the tower, because with the diamonds on there, and I just put the landing pads on. And so when you put one landing pad on, somebody has to hold the diamond so it doesn't fall over, because it's heavy on one side, obviously. And then you put the other landing pad on the other side, and it's balanced again. You don't have to hold anymore. If you put the entire center of the tower together, including the observation deck, including the cake topper, I'm kind of runny nose. What happens is that, yes, you have to have somebody hold it, and you can hold it yourself. I can put my hand on the on the tower, hold it, and put the one landing pad on, and reach around and put the other landing pad on, and it won't fall over because I'm holding it during that transition period. And then when the two landing pads are on, it's perfectly symmetrical and it's well balanced. And then when I put the third landing pad on, because the two are heavy, the observation deck is heavy, the cake topper is a little heavy, you can put the third landing pad on and it will not fall over. It looks like it's gonna fall over, but it will not fall over in almost every circumstance. So what happened was on the living room floor, I didn't bother, so I just put them from the bottom up. I put the whole tower together, including the observation deck and the cake topper, and I put the one landing pad on. I reach around and put the second landing pad on the opposite side. So it's now well balanced, and I go get landing pad number 3, and I put that one on, and the tower's not moving. I always make sure. I just let go. Oh, I hear the creaking of Lego, and that's not the best sound in the world. You hear the creaking of Lego, but it's not moving. Perfect. So I go over to grab landing pad number 4, and I'm walking back to the tower with landing pad number 4. And right before I got there, it was a moment that I wish was on film. It was like, again, I like to think I'm a pretty, reflexive guy, but I'm not. I know my entire life, my reflexes are not good. I'm a klutz to begin with. But my mind has to process what's going on before I act. I'm not an instant reactor. I've never been literally an instant reactor. That's why I'm not good at debates. When somebody says something, it takes me a while to ruminate, to pontificate, to come up with a response, an appropriate or good response. I need time to process things. My entire life, I need time to process things. So I'm watching it move over, and my head's going through this. And the analogy that I use is in Terminator 1. When the guy comes knocking on the door and says, "Hey, you, get out of that room," and then you see the Terminator show up the 5 or 7 responses that it could program to remove or use, and it selects the best one. That's my head, if you want to talk about it that way. So when something happens, I have to have a moment, uno momento por favor. I need a minute to process it. Not necessarily 60 seconds, but I need some time to process it to make my response. I'm not an immediate reactor to almost anything in my life. I need time, a second or two. So it is, and I'm almost right there with the landing pad in my hand. Like I was 3 feet away from the tower, and I see it start to move. And it was slow. It was just like when you watch those TV shows when they're cutting down the big, huge trees out there out west, and they're 500 feet tall, whatever. I don't know. And they just start moving very slowly at first. And you know in your head, it's moving. It is moving. And you know in your head immediately, and I don't have to process that it's going to fall. It is now in the process of falling. And again, people say, oh, everything moved down in slow motion. I'm not saying that's what happened. Things, when they start falling, start slowly. So I had some time to process this, but obviously my processing skills aren't as up to par at my age that they could have been. And I could have potentially, and then again, I'm going through the potentials in my head. Do I reach out and grab it? But then the cake topper is going to fall off and smash in the ground. And I'm going through all these thoughts. The second I saw it start moving, and I got the landing, I have to put the landing pad down, like all the stuff. And so I was like, I won't say frozen because I was still moving, but I watched it fall. I watched it go right over. Now, also to be said, when it was falling, it wasn't falling from the bottom. The bottom main building, the 4 modules at the bottom were not the problem. The problem was not at the bottom. It wasn't. That's a huge base. It wasn't going to fall there. The problem was also not the, oh, you get used, I love references. It wasn't the monorail station here. It was this part wasn't tipping. It wasn't tipping here. And I could see that. It wasn't big there. You know what the problem was? The one, you don't see it in this picture because I didn't build it before this picture. The thing I built last year that made the tower 6 inches taller, which I had just modified down here a moment before, because this was part of the wiring issue. The wires had to go through that level in order to go from the bottom to the top. So I had to modify that new 8 station little landing pad thing in order so that I could put the wires through. I had not considered when I did that I would weaken that module at all. I didn't think about it. I thought, oh, this looks strong enough to me. it should be fine. And I put it on there. See, it's not even here, but the one corner where the wires go through now was weakened because I took the bricks out to put a hole in there so I could run the wires through. So, well, I don't know, my nose is running. That was the actual issue. And the confluence of problems, and this is, again, I don't know if it's fates, I don't know what it is, but had I put the landing pads on differently, so let's use this. Okay, so there's 4 of these around. This is the one corner which I modified, and there's no strength here in this one corner. This is the corner where I was putting the landing pad on. No, sorry, this is the corner that the landing pads were already on. So the weight is on this side when there's no support right here on this corner. So the 3 landing pads, had I put the 3 landing pads on the other side, and this was the last one, there wouldn't have been an issue. What happened was that the landing pads are here, here, and here. So all the weight's on this corner basically. And I was, putting the last landing pad on the opposite side of the building to balance it out. And this thing says, oh no, I don't have enough structural support to hold up the tower. And you just, it just, whoosh. So again, it was a perfect storm of stupidity on my part. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. It was a perfect storm of stupidity on my part. Which I'll get into more. And so the tower went whoosh, and I got to say that a lot this weekend, by the way, because I posted pictures online of the disaster of 2025, the Lego disaster of 2025, which is what I'm calling it, TM trademarked, the disaster of 2025, the Lego disaster. There was a few saving graces here. So to back up, that exact moment when the tower started to move, Sandy's on the couch. She's watching a ball game or something on the couch. And in any other context, she helps me put this tower together. She's helped me in the past put this tower together. She knows exactly what to do to help me put this tower together. She holds it so it doesn't fall over. But in my head, and I was talking about this with friends online, and I don't know how to get past this, because this is literally also my entire life. In my head, I go it alone on this kind of stuff. I don't want to bother other people. This is my hobby. This is my joy, and it's my work. Why am I bothering other people to help me? So I rarely ask for help for anything. If I think I can handle it, I'm just gonna go it alone. It doesn't matter if there's 20 people standing here willing to help me and they say to me, Dave, what help do you need? I go, I'm good. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to be bothersome to other people. I can handle this. And again, historically speaking, I was able to handle this. And historically speaking, I have put this tower together numerous times without people. Numerous times. And sometimes there are people there, and maybe I'm lazy or whatever. Hey, I come over, we're chatting, and while you're standing there. But I have such a tough time asking other people to help me when I think I can go it alone. Now, when I know I need help, I'll ask people anytime. Like, oh, that's it, I'm moving this couch. You have to help me. I have no problem asking. When I absolutely for sure know I cannot do this by myself, I ask for help, and I have no problem doing it. Here, on my hobby, on my Lego, on my layout, on my tower, everything that I've done has always been me, and I don't want to bother other people. She's watching her TV show. Why am I bothering her? Why am I bothering her? She's my wife, and she's always, literally, one of the biggest blessings in my life is that lady upstairs right now, because she has literally always always been there for me. Every single thing, every single problem, every single issue, every single soap opera, every single family. She's always been there for me for almost 21 years now. It'll be 21 years in November when we started dating. Well, first date. December's our first date. We met at a Lego show, but again, tangents. She's never said no to me when I needed help. Not once in our entire relationship, but she said, go screw yourself. This is yours, you go do it yourself. She's always been there. She was at this show. Anyway, I cannot stop gushing enough about how beautiful my wife is. I didn't ask her. I didn't think about it. It didn't even dawn on me to ask her to come over and hold the tower. Because I've done this before. Now, again, the variable in this equation was that new level that I had just built down here Thursday night. It's all these pieces here. And I didn't consider that was a problem until it became a problem. So anyway, I have a tough time asking for help. The module was changed, the layer was changed, and it had a weak spot to it that I hadn't seen, which bothers me. And I had put the landing pads on in such a way that was going to be an issue. Had I put the landing pads on any differently, the last landing pad that needed to be connected, if it was on any of the other corners, this would not have happened at all. But it happened. So it's the bang bang, me not asking for help, changing the thing, and putting the last landing pad on, the one that was over top or the opposite side of the weakened spot. So, kapoosh. I'm trying to get the exact way I said it at the store, at the show, because I like the way I said it. It went, kapoosh. Yeah, because we had a hardwood floor, our engineer of Harvard, and you can hear the pieces clacking all. If it was carpet, it would have been different, but it wasn't carpet. It was our floor, our hardwood floor in the living room, and the pieces just went. No, they went out in a nice pattern. I got a nice picture of it. It went whoosh. So the fallout of that. So the tower fell towards the dining room table. So there was a saving grace there because the tower is so freaking tall. It's taller than me now. The tower is so tall that the cake topper and the air ops or space ops fell on top of the table, whereas the rest of it just fell on the floor. And because those things would have been completely ruined had they had the entire 6 feet fall down to the floor. They would have just been completely decimated. And I can guarantee you there would have been some broken pieces. But it fell on top. There was some damage. I still had to, put them back together. But it was those two pieces, the top two. This one and this one, the two parts of the cake topper, were not as damaged as, say, the one right below it, the observation deck. The observation deck was completely destroyed. It was unsalvageable. I had to build it from scratch. That was done. So, not as damaged because it fell on top of the table. Completely gone. I just built it from scratch. The diamond itself, the bottom part was still fine because I think what happened there is the Technic cross bracing saved it, which was interesting because nothing happened to the cross bracing. The cross brace, even the landing pad. Actually, the landing pads were not. I didn't even attach the landing pads with the little things. So the landing pads came off. There was some damage to the landing pads, the outer ring, because if you've been around long enough, and I hate to bore you with these stories, the outer rings used to come off, which made my packing up easier. So the outer rings were off of most of the landing pads, but that was it. Like 5 connections, it was back together. So the landing pads were fine. But the cross bracing of the Technic did not break at all. Thank you, Technic. So I know how to build Technic. But anyway, the cross bracing was fine, and the bottom of the diamond was mostly intact. The top of the diamond basically had to be built from scratch. The piece that is there now, that's not in this picture, I had to rebuild it because of course it broke. It's just completely. That's the whole problem with that. Now on the way down, as it fell, it did hit the monorail station here on the bottom. So I had to fix that a little bit. So anyway, so the thing falls over, like that. The thing falls over, and I have a landing pad in my hand. I'm standing where the tower used to be, and I'm looking at the floor. Now, Sandy, let's just back up. A moment before the disaster, the Lego disaster 25 happened, Sandy's watching her TV and she looks up at me and she's about to say, "Hey honey, do you need some help?" Because she's helped me on she knows at this juncture of putting the tower together, this is the greatest part of failure in the entire time of putting this tower together, is right at this juncture when you're putting the landing pads on. And she knows this because she's been with me for the entire time the tower's been existing. And so she's always been there to help. And so she's on the couch and I'm putting this together. She's watching TV. She's not watching. I'm telling her I'm putting this stuff together to test it. And then she looks up and she sees the 3 landing pads on there. I'm walking towards it with the 4th landing. And she's just about to say, hey, honey, do you need some help? When it went over. So she knew. She had a premonition. Again, confluence of perfect storm. She wasn't paying too much attention to what I was doing, and I didn't expect her to pay too much attention to what I'm doing. But right at the point, right pre-failure, she has it in her head to look over and say, hey honey, do you need some help? She's just about to say the words when it went over. So, I don't know. I'm not looking about serendipities and stuff. But anyway, so the fallout is, I watch it go over, smash, I have a landing pad in my hand. I put it on the table. I reached for my phone because it's on the table. And I was about to text Etienne, the organizer of the show, on Thursday night, 9 p.m. And I look over to Sandy and I say, honey, and this is the first words I said, honey, I'm going to text Etienne right now and say I'm not bringing the layout. Because I like a million thoughts run through my head, but the predominant one that went through my head is I'm not even going to bother. I'm not going to bother. It's just I wanted people to see the layout, but I'm looking at it on a Thursday night and I have to be on the road by Sunday and I have to work Friday and Saturday. Like I had the whole itinerary of stuff, the whole logistics of stuff that I had for the week before I left to get done. And Friday was stuff to get done and Saturday was stuff to get done and I still had to work. And we had to be on Sunday early in the morning, so I had to get all this stuff done before I left on Sunday. And fixing the tower wasn't in the list. What's not in the list at all to get fixed before Sunday. So I said the itinerary in my head, the logistics in my head, shot to hell now. I'm not even gonna bother. I'm not gonna bother. It was like, hey, you know, what are you gonna do? Move on. Let's go to the next. I'll just bring my little moving art thing. Maybe I'll bring the go-karts. I don't know. But I'll just say, Etienne, I'm not bringing it. So I said, I said to Sandy, because she's now off the couch. Oh no! She had more of a visceral reaction than I did to it. Because again, I love her. And she goes, I go to her, I'm just gonna text Etienne right now. I'm not bringing the layout. Because there's no way I'm putting this back together before the show. There's none. I'm looking at all the pieces all over the floor. There's no way I'm getting this thing back together before the show. And she comes over and stands beside me and she's looking at it. And she goes, we can do this. Her exact words to me, we can do this. So I went through a million thoughts right before she said that. Like a million thoughts right before she said that. About not giving up, because I was going to fix the tower later, because it was going to be bricks into 6. But I said, for the amount of stuff that I had to get done for work and all that stuff to get this whole week done was, I won't say overwhelming to me, because it wasn't, but there was a lot there, and I said, I don't need this on top of it, so I'm just going to sweep this, put it in a tote, and wait till I get back. And she looks at the floor and she says, we can do this. And I looked at her and said, are you serious? Like, not in a condescending or sarcastic way, but are you serious? We can do this? Again, she's my biggest support blanket on the planet. She goes, yeah, we can do this. And I'm going, I did not have the faith that we could do this. 5 seconds before she said it, I said, I'm not even gonna bother. I'm not even gonna attempt it. And she goes, we can do this. And immediately, this is my wife for me. immediately I said, yeah, I guess we can do this. Going, what? Like, I just looked at it. I said, like, it wasn't overwhelming. It's just like, I was done. I was honestly done. It was like, to fast forward, but also to rewind a little bit, Sandy and I have been in discussions. She really wants to support me in my hobby, and she loves me loving this hobby as much as I want to love this hobby, and she knows that I love bringing the layout to shows because we've been doing it for so long, and she knows that it's my zen, my happy spot to have the layout at shows. Some people might be bored with it, but like, I'm not bored with it. I've never been bored with it. I've never been bored with the layout since the day I started. Jeff and I started back in 2007. I've never, ever, ever, ever been bored with doing a space layout, ever. I love doing it. And people humor me, thank you. And they let me bring it, thank you. And so she knows I would have been miserable at the show last weekend, yesterday, if the layout wasn't there. I'd be like, oh, it's not here, awesome. And she said, you've been miserable. And she was right. I hadn't even considered that part. I just considered the overwhelming, I have to rebuild this thing before Sunday. So she goes, we can do this. And then she starts sorting out, because she's seen it long enough. She's seen me building it. She's seen this tower from beginning to end. Like, we met in 2004. I started building this tower in 2010. She's seen every step of the process, and she goes, she might not be able to build it, but she can help me rebuild it by getting all the parts. So she gets down and she starts sorting out the observation decks over there, and the top of the diamonds over there, and the landing pads over there. She starts sorting out. She says, it's not that bad. And I'm looking at the pile she's making, and I said, it's not that bad. So by the end of Thursday night, seriously, by the end of Thursday night, so it fell over at 9 p.m. on Thursday. Now, but I did say to her, I'm not going to worry about the wiring at all. I am not worried about if it doesn't light up now, because you expect the wires to be broken, by the way, which we'll get into. By the end of Thursday night, the very first thing I did is I fixed the 3 landing pads, which was minutes. Well, I wouldn't say minutes, but there's the landing pads, because some parts were missing. So the landing pads, because one was fine because it was still in my hand. But the 3 landing pads didn't take long to fix at all. The cake topper, piece of cake to fix the cake topper, because it fell on top. I mean, it was broken. I should maybe glue it, but no. The bigger part, the air ops, the actual physical building of the this thing, this smaller the 16 the air ops, space ops, without the wiring would have been 2 minutes to fix. With the wiring, an hour and a half. Because I did want the wiring to be back in there, and so I had to bring it down here I actually soldered more wires in there to make it easier. So that cake topper was a little bit of time, but I got it done before Thursday night, and I had started rebuilding. I had come down here and I fixed the root of all evil. The new layer, that's not in this picture. I had fixed and made it stronger on that corner, so now it's, it wouldn't collapse again. And I fixed the monorail station. So the only thing that was left, and I had started the top of the diamond. And the observation deck, I didn't even bother touching. It was just a big pile of rubble over there. So to also back up a little bit, after the disaster, the Lego disaster 25.5, it was interesting as to what was still together. And on this layer, there is one minifig. It's wild style. There's like 50 minifigs inside here. There was one minifig that was left standing. This layer on the diamond. Wild style stayed standing. Nick stayed standing. Nick gave me one of his sig figs. It was standing after the disaster, the Lego disaster 25. Fantastic. His cactus was missing. I don't know where that went. We finally found it after cleaning up. But the two figs that were still standing, Nick and Wild Style. But anyway, so before we went to bed on Thursday, the top of the diamond and the observation deck were the only things I had to fix when we went to bed on Thursday. So again, now I got logistics back in my head to push off all the other stuff that I was gonna do. And so Friday I went off to work. Friday night I came home, had dinner, and then I started. Oh, Friday night was Lego. Sorry, I forgot. Friday night was Lego dinner. So I didn't even come home Friday after work. We went to Lego dinner, and then we came home after. And then I started the observation deck. But of course, I could sleep in on Saturday. So the observation deck was something. I had to basically build it from scratch. Now there's a lot of parts that I did not have to take fully apart, and I made it stronger. I mentioned that behind the I keep this like behind the blue canopies, not the trans yellow, but the blue canopies. I have the bricks in there to hold the top and bottom together so they don't break apart. You don't see them, but I built that better. So I'm sure if it fell over again, it'd still smash to pieces. But now it is stronger, and I got rid of a lot of. I did a lot of 1x1, 1x2, 1x3 building inside the observation deck in order to make it in-universe compliant, where the guys can move around, so the corridors are not blocked. I said, screw that, because you don't see it. You'll never see it. You have to take it apart to see it. But I just 2x4 bricks and 2x8 bricks, all completely constructed with that on the inside. So that is much stronger now. And the top of the diamond took a little time on Saturday. So by Saturday morning, the whole tower is back together. And this is what I did this time. I rebuilt the tower on Saturday and plugged it in to verify the lighting. And overall, I found a few broken wires, like 2 broken wires during the rebuild process that I just quickly soldered back together. And I rebuilt the tower. There was some issues, but I wasn't going to worry about those. But the tower is fully lit Saturday. So I took it down again. I put it back in the boxes and I brought it to the show. So Saturday at noon, basically, that tower was back together. Disaster on Thursday at 9, and the entire tower was rebuilt and tested Saturday at noon. And this is with work, with Lego dinner, with everything else going on. And all the stuff that I was going to do Thursday night and Friday and Saturday put off. But I guess it wasn't that important because I certainly didn't miss it. I can't remember what I had planned for those nights for the show. We threw it all in the van Saturday night, and we left Sunday halfway before, I can't remember, I think around noon or whatever. And then I got to the show to talk about, so I'm going to keep on focusing on the tower right now. I got to the show and I started to set up. Now what I started to do, and I think it was at Bricks in the 6, might have been Anime North, but what I started to do at Bricks in the 6 is, instead of putting the landing pads on the diamond while it's sitting on top of the tower, I put the diamond on a table. I put the by itself, and then I put the struts on there, and then I put the landing pads, so if it falls over, it's just that one piece. And then at the show, Josh was there, and Josh just held onto the diamond while I was putting the 4 landing pads on. And then you pick up the whole thing. Now this gets a little scary because now you have the whole diamond and the landing pads, which is a little heavy, but also hugely awkward. And then you have to carry it over to the tower as it's built and put it on top of the tower. But that's easier than trying to put the landing pads on the tower while it's on the platform and you're reaching into the layout. So I started doing that a couple years ago, and that's what I did at Brickomanie 2025, and it worked perfectly well. And then you put the rest of the tower on top, and of course putting the rest of the tower on top entails you standing on top of a chair, which also leads to some issues. Maybe we should bring a step ladder or something, like a small step ladder, because chairs are notoriously not the most stable things to stand on top of. Don't tell my friend Sarah. And it could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. So I got the entire thing built. There were 2 landing pads out, and I realized that one of the wires was broken, and the connection plug that was probably broken back here, but I wasn't gonna, but I noticed it was broken there, and I did not bring my soldering iron, and I realized when I was there that I thought I was gonna pack it, but it's right here, it's right there. Soldering iron, I should get a new one. I should absolutely get a new one. Maybe I'll ask that for Christmas. Because at the show, I didn't have a soldering iron, and that's the only way of fixing this was with a soldering iron, because it was the solid connector pin and the wire, so I couldn't just tape it up. It wasn't going to work. So my friend Sylvain was there. He's one of the GBC guys. He's one of the Technic guys. He's one of the RCX guys that him and I have gotten. We go way back. Again, this is why I have friends in the Lego community. And I knew he would have a soldering iron because he's like me. He like tinkers with the electricity. And I said to Sylvain, can you bring your soldering iron in tomorrow? So this was like on Friday. Can you bring your soldering iron in? And he goes, yeah. For you? I said, oh, because I think I gave him an RCX. Like the last time I saw him, one of my RCXs. So he brought a soldering iron in. I just fixed the wire, and the whole thing lit up. The whole tower was lit up at the show. So again, not because the tower was lit up, I'm getting misty. I'm getting misty right now talking about all the people, like literally all the people. And it's not just my wife and Sylvain, because this whole thing was a whole, the people were not just, oh, sorry that happened to you, Dave. They were, what can we do to help? When I was at the show setting up, people kept saying, Dave, do you need help? I'm going like, this is, I've been on other communities too that have like the Boy Scouts and everything else like that. But it was moving to me from top to bottom this entire week, the weekend, how literally wonderfully awesome everybody was that was there presenting. There was some, and try again, the list of stuff that I gotta talk about. We're already 51 minutes into this, so I'm gonna stop this right after this point and start a new one. The amount of support and appreciation and love and wonderfulness that I felt this weekend, and it's happened at other shows too, like Brick Fats and Bricks in a Six. This is a community overall, from my experience. Other people's experiences changed, like, because I don't know what's going on, because I'm oblivious. But for me, the amount of love and support and appreciation and just hanging out with friends and loving this hobby that I had this weekend, which again happened in other shows. I'm not saying it didn't, because it was exactly the same as other shows. It was, I think it's because I'm a little older now and stuff has been happening. It was overwhelming. I wouldn't say overwhelming. It was very much appreciated. And even to support online for the disaster, Lego Disaster 2025, it was thoroughly appreciated by me this weekend. It wasn't just the tower disaster; it was the whole thing. And I hope you have a great show. And what do you need? And the layouts were fantastic in this place. It was a very. It reminded me of the Brick Fets. It reminded me of Bricks in a Six, where I felt a solid. Because again, I don't want to be in on the end. I don't want to be part of the administrative team. I don't want to be a Lego certified builder. I don't want to be any of that. I want to show up and do a show and hang out with my friends for a weekend. That's all I want to do. That's all I have ever wanted to do. When I used to do my own shows, when I used to run the hobby show and the toy train adult show for our little area, that's all I wanted. I wanted to be with friends for a weekend and talk Lego and just geek out and have a great time. That was this weekend. That's every other weekend I've done these shows. That was this weekend, and it was especially moving to me. It really was. It was so comfortable this weekend. And it was so extraordinarily awesome. And again, I'm gonna do a lot of things, and I'm gonna forget a lot of people. And I'm gonna, because I just want to focus on the tower and the layout for now, and I'm gonna get into the other really heartfelt stuff later, because the tower breaks. It's not heartfelt. But the general consensus for me this weekend was spectacularly awesome, just like other conventions. It was spectacularly awesome for me. So the tower got built, the layout worked perfectly fine. The one loop wasn't working, although just focus on the tower, the disaster, and then I'm going to cut this off because it's already 53 minutes. We'll talk about that in the next meeting. So I should have wrote down all the stuff that I'm supposed to talk about, but this is part one, and we'll go into part two.